If you believe music can carry memories people try to bury, and that one familiar sound can undo years of control, subscribe and stay. These are the stories where the past doesn't knock. It plays a single note and waits. The office building is supposed to be silent after 9. Lights dim automatically. Security does a final sweep. The city outside hums at a distance, muffled by glass and height. That's why the sound stops her mid-step. Not noise. Music. She freezes in the hallway, one hand still resting against the cool glass wall of her office. For a moment, she thinks it's her imagination, a trick of fatigue after a 12-hour day. Then it comes again. Soft, careful, a piano melody drifting down the corridor like a secret. Her breath catches. No one plays the piano anymore. Not since now. She shuts that thought down immediately. She turns slowly, heels silent on the carpet, and follows the sound. It's coming from the small executive lounge at the end of the floor. The one with the unused grand piano that was installed years ago for appearances more than function. She can't remember the last time anyone touched it. Until now. He's sitting there. The single dad from IT. She knows his name, of course. She knows everyone's name. But until this moment, he's existed in the quiet category of people she doesn't think about unless necessary, competent, respectful, invisible in the way people learn to be around power. He doesn't see her. He's seated on the bench, shoulders relaxed, head slightly bowed, fingers moving gently over the keys. He's not performing. He's barely pressing them at all. But the melody is unmistakable. Her heart stutters violently. No, it can't be. She takes another step forward, then another, drawn despite herself. With every note, the years peel back. This is not a common song. It's not classical. Not something you learn from lessons or sheet music. It's unfinished. It's flawed in small ways, pauses that linger too long, a progression that only makes sense if you know where it came from. She knows. Her hands curl into fists at her sides. That song was written for her. A lifetime ago. He reaches the part that always broke her. The soft descent at the end. The unresolved final chord that never quite settles. Her vision blurs. Stop. The word slips out before she can stop it herself. His hands freeze on the keys. He turns slowly, clearly startled, eyes widening when he sees her standing there, pale and rigid like she's seen a ghost. I'm sorry, he says immediately, standing. I didn't realize anyone was still. Where did you learn that song? She asks. Her voice is steady. Her body is not. He blinks. What? That melody, she says, stepping closer now. Where did you learn it? He hesitates, sensing the shift in the air. It's something I play sometimes. I didn't think anyone would recognize it. She lets out a sharp breath that's almost a laugh. No one should, she says. No one can. Their eyes lock. I need you to answer me, she says quietly. Where did you learn that song? He studies her face, really looks at her now, and whatever he sees there makes him choose honesty over caution. My wife, he says. Then after a beat, before she passed. The word lands heavy between them. She swallows. She used to hum it, he continues. Said it was written by someone she knew. A long time ago. Her knees threaten to give out. That's not possible, she whispers. He frowns. Why? Because she never let anyone hear it. Because she never recorded it. Because the only person who ever played it for her is gone. Did she ever tell you who wrote it? She asks. He shakes his head. No. She just said it mattered to her. The room feels too small. Too tight. She turns away abruptly, walking a few steps before stopping, bracing her hand against the piano's polished surface. That melody followed her for years. Through college. Through the night she chose ambition over love. Through every boardroom where she learned to silence the parts of herself that felt too much. And now it's here. In her building. On her floor. Under his fingers. You shouldn't play that here, she says finally. I won't, he replies instantly. I didn't mean to upset you. She turns back to him. You didn't upset me, she says. You reminded me. Silence stretches. I should go, he adds, already reaching for his bag. No, she says. The word is sharp enough that he pauses. Sit, she says. Please. He hesitates only a second before obeying. Power shifts subtly. Not enforced, not spoken but present. She remains standing, arms crossed tightly, as if holding herself together. How long have you known that song? She asks. Years, he says. My wife would hum it when she was thinking. I picked it up by ear. Her chest tightens painfully. She never told you where it came from, she says. No. She nods slowly. Then very carefully, she sits on the edge of the piano bench, close enough that she can feel the warmth of him, but not touching. That song, she says, was written for me. His breath stills. By my first love, she continues. Before either of us became who we are now. He looks at her like the world has shifted on its axis. I didn't know, he says quietly. I know. They sit there side by side, the piano between past and present. I walked away from him, she adds. I chose a future that didn't include unfinished things. He glances down at the keys. And the song stayed unfinished too, he says. Her throat tightens. Yes. Neither of them moves. Outside, the city continues, unaware that something fragile has cracked open several stories above it. You should go home, she says eventually. He nods. Yes. Of course. But before he stands, she adds. Tomorrow. I'd like you to stay after hours again. He looks up surprised. Why? She meets his gaze, steady now, resolute. Because I want to hear the rest of it, she says. And I think you might already know how it ends. He doesn't sleep much that night. The melody follows him home, settles into the quiet spaces of his apartment, lingers even when his hands are no longer on the keys. He keeps hearing the way her voice sounded when she said it, written for me. Not dramatic, not fragile, but weighted with years she doesn't allow herself to show. By morning, he knows one thing with absolute certainty. He can't play that song the same way again. The next evening, he stays late exactly as she asked. The building empties around them gradually. Lights shut off floor by floor. The hush settles in deeper this time, intentional. When he reaches the executive lounge, she's already there. Standing by the piano, jacket draped over the back of a chair, hair down in a way he hasn't seen before. You came, she says. I said I would. She nods, as if that matters more than she's willing to admit. Sit, she says again. Not as an order this time, but an invitation. He takes the bench, hands resting loosely in his lap. She doesn't sit beside him yet. Instead, she walks slowly around the piano, fingers trailing along its polished edge like she's grounding herself. I haven't heard that song in over 20 years, she says quietly. Not like that. Not alive. He waits. He used to play it for me when we were young, she continues. Before choices felt permanent. Before I learned how to close doors. She stops near the window, city lights framing her reflection. I told myself I left that part of my life behind, she says. That it didn't follow me. Her voice tightens just slightly. I was wrong. He nods, understanding more than he should. My wife, he says gently, never played it like a memory. She played it like a promise. Something she believed still mattered. That makes her turn. You loved her, she says. Yes. And she loved that song. Yes. The room feels fuller now, not heavier but honest. She moves closer and finally sits beside him, leaving just enough space to breathe. Play it again, she says. He hesitates. I don't know if I should. She looks at him, eyes steady. Play it the way you hear it now. That's all the permission he needs. He places his hands on the keys. This time he doesn't rush. He lets the opening notes linger, softer, more deliberate. The melody unfolds slowly, reshaped. Not erased, but deepened by everything they've said. She closes her eyes. As he plays, she remembers things she hasn't allowed herself to remember in years. Not just the man who wrote the song, but the woman she was when she first heard it. Less guarded. Less certain. More alive. When he reaches the final progression, he does something different. He resolves it. The last chord settles gently, complete. Her breath catches sharply. That's not how it ended, she whispers. No, he agrees. It's how it continues. Silence fills the room. Not empty, not awkward. Full. She opens her eyes slowly. Why did you change it? She asks. He meets her gaze. Because unfinished things don't always mean they were meant to stay that way. Something in her expression breaks open. Not grief, not regret. Relief. They sit there side by side, neither of them moving. Thank you, she says finally. For the song. For letting it grow, she replies. And for not asking for anything in return. He smiles faintly. I wouldn't. She turns toward him fully now. You know, she says. I've spent most of my life believing that who I was had to be smaller than what I wanted. And now, he asks. Now, she says. I'm starting to think that what I want might finally include who I am. The words aren't romantic. They're more intimate than that. They don't touch, not yet. The space between them feels intentional. Respected. What happens now? He asks quietly. She considers that. Now, she says, we let this be what it is. Not a secret. Not a complication. Just real. He nods. I can do that. I know. Over the weeks that follow, nothing explodes. Which for her feels like a revelation. They talk. They walk. Sometimes they sit together after hours, not always at the piano. Sometimes just watching the city breathe through glass. They don't rush into anything. They don't pretend nothing changed. At work, she remains composed, authoritative. He remains professional, grounded. But something softer threads through their interactions now. A shared understanding, a mutual patience. One evening, much later, she stands beside him at the piano again. You know, she says, that song doesn't belong to my past anymore. He looks at her. Where does it belong? She places her hand gently over his on the keys, not guiding, not taking control, just resting there. Here, she says. Now. He covers her hand with his, warm and steady. And in that quiet executive lounge, with the city watching from a distance, two lives settle into something neither of them expected, but both of them chose. Not because of nostalgia, not because of loss, but because some melodies aren't meant to be forgotten. They're meant to be finished together.